get started here. Hold on just a moment as we get a couple little technical things out of the way. All right. Now we're ready to go. So once again, my name is Bobby Farmer. I am part of our Resource Center team here at Foodwell Alliance. We are led by our Director of Programs, Mr. Chris Lemons, who has joined us on the webinar as well today. And here on the Resource Center at Foodwell Alliance, we have some tailored and specific resources to serve and support both community gardens and urban farms here in Metro Atlanta. You'll see up here on the screen my email address, bobby@foodwellalliance.org, BOBBY@foodwellalliance.org. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions after today's webinar, or if there are any other additional just specific questions that you might have about the grant. Certainly, our Resource Center team can also answer questions about some of the additional farm and community garden resources that we offer. We'll be talking a little bit about those today as well. So feel free, don't hesitate to reach out if you do have any questions or want to set up some time to chat about anything further. So for those who might not know us, just a little bit of kind of background information. Foodwell Alliance, we consider ourselves a collaborative network of local leaders working to build thriving community gardens and urban farms here in Metro Atlanta. And specifically, our mission is to provide the resources and support to local growers so that they can connect and build healthier communities. We really do see the growers, the farmers, and community gardeners who have dedicated time, dedicated their lives, their profession, their skills to growing food for others, really as the center of our local food system here in Metro Atlanta. So much of what we do here at Foodwell Alliance really is focused on, supporting their work, providing the resources that they need, so that we can all benefit from a strong and thriving local food system here in Atlanta. So as I mentioned, I'm part of the Resource Center team. We do provide a variety of resources here in Metro Atlanta to urban farmers and community gardeners. Like I mentioned, we will talk a little bit about those. We know of and have supported, actually at this point, a little over 140 community gardeners and over 50 urban farms that are located here in our Metro Atlanta service area. So those counties that we do serve are Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb, Gwinnett, and Clayton counties. So farms, gardens, other local food organizations that are doing work in these counties are the folks that we seek to serve and folks that we've been able to reach with some of our resources since Foodwell Alliance was founded just in 2015. So just kind of high level overview, this is what we're going to be kind of focusing on today. Our farm focused grant opportunities, really that are, support resources to help local farmers make improvements to their farm operations and really do the work that they do best. And so that's really kind of the focus and purpose of this grant opportunity. So high level, we do have something a little bit different this year on the farm side, and that is 2 categories of grant support. So we're going to be talking about this a little bit more, but we do have within one application 2 categories. Our farm support grant, it's a $7,000 funding opportunity, and our farm forward grant, that's a $25,000 funding opportunity. So we kind of think of it as a 2-in-1. And these 2 categories of grant support, a farm is able to apply for both of these categories through one application form. So just let me clarify off the front here about that. A farm applicant can apply to be considered for both of these categories. A farm would only be awarded under one, But essentially, you can complete the application, complete both sections of the application for the smaller $7,000 grant and the larger $25,000 grant. And then your farm is essentially in the running under both of those categories. So we're going to talk a little bit more. We're only going to be awarding a limited number of the larger 25,000. So, a farm applicant can complete both sections of the application and essentially be in the running for both of those categories. If you don't get the larger category, the Farm Forward grant, you could still be considered for the smaller farm support grant. So 2023 Farm Grant has two categories of support, our Farm Support Grant and the Farm Forward Grant. These grant opportunities are available to active farm operations located in Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb, Gwinnett, or Clayton counties. And we are accepting applications until January 27th at midnight. A lot of the great information that we're going to talk about today is actually available on our website. So please, I encourage everybody to head over to foodwellalliance.org if you haven't already. You can select from the kind of drop down at the top of our webpage to head over to our Farm Resource Center, where you're going to be able to certainly read about all the opportunities that we offer, but also hone in on specifically our 2023 farm grants. So please check out the website if you haven't already. Now, before we get into the grant specific kind of information, I do want to just take a moment and talk a little bit about some of the recent challenges that quite frankly, that Metro Atlanta and Georgia farmers all over the South, in fact, have faced here just in the last few weeks. With that kind of blast of Arctic air that came through here, just right around Christmas time, December 24th, 23rd, 24th, 25th. We understand that the really extreme low temperatures, brought through by that weather front, really created some challenging and difficult times for our local farmers. So we want to first acknowledge that absolutely folks are heading into the new year here. Facing some deficits, facing some challenges, and certainly probably assessing where they stand and what's, where do improvements need to happen to recover, and certainly scrambling a little bit to kind of think about their plans for these winter months and how that affects the rest of the year for farmers as well. So, I think as farmers are making those assessments, figuring out where they are, I just want to highlight a couple things. So one is the Farmer Fund. So you can head over to the farmerfund.org, where the Farmer Fund, which is a program run and operated by Georgia Organics, is accepting applications, requests related to kind of freeze-related financial aid for farmers. So I really encourage you to go check that out. Submit a request. That's the best way certainly for Georgia Organics to know what's going on with your farm and respond in ways to see how they can help, potentially with some financial support. I also want to, say certainly for our farms. So since the Farmer Fund is a statewide initiative and program, I want to kind of offer up and say that for our farms specifically here in Metro Atlanta, the 5 counties that Foodwell Alliance serves, we want to hear from you as well. We've heard from some farmers directly. We've been able to reach out to some folks as well, and we're kind of continuing to do that. And understanding that people maybe have certainly some immediate needs, but also some thinking through just kind of where they stand and what needs to happen. Would love to hear from you. You can email me, Bobby at Foodwell Alliance. Certainly also feel free to reach out to Chris Lemons here, our Director of Programs and Outreach, Chris at foodwellalliance.org. I guess certainly we're interested to hear just some of the types of impact that this kind of Arctic blast has created for farmers. So we've heard about some infrastructure damage. Absolutely have heard about some crop loss. And, I think as you're reaching out and either, submitting a form to the Farmer Fund, if you're, reaching out to us to kind of just tell us where you stand so that we can maybe assess and see, how we can fit in with some of our support. Certainly, take some time to understand kind of, what are some of those direct costs related to infrastructure repair. If you're assessing crop loss, go ahead and put some numbers and thoughts around, what's that estimated lost revenue and kind of over what time period are you looking at being impacted. I think that's the helpful information that kind of the community of supporters, including organizations and individuals as well, that want to be able to support our local farmers. Those are some of the types of information we need to be hearing, and we need to be sharing amongst farmers, amongst farmer supporters and others. So just want to acknowledge as well just the stress and uncertainty that something like that brings. Certainly, I hope the resources that we're going to talk a little bit about today are something that, while maybe fitting in to kind of support some of the emergency or immediate needs, but also hopefully some of the types of resources that can fit in to help farms be resilient and able to face some of these types of shocks, as you're planning and moving forward with your own farm operations. All right, so once again, helpful website, go to foodwellalliance.org, click on that drop-down menu to head over to the Farmer Resource Center page, where you can kind of explore and read about the kind of full list of menu of offerings that Food Well Alliance does provide. I think something that's really neat, as Food Well has changed over the years, we've incorporated these different types of farm resources that are a little bit more on demand, not just attached to an annual grant cycle, but some of these things that farms are able to kind of request when they need, some resources that a farm is able to kind of participate in that are able to meet kind of the needs and the timelines of farm needs, in addition to, say, annual grant support or some different things like that. So, here at Food Well Alliance, we continue to offer our farm labor support. Our partnership with Charles Greenlee and Eco Paradigm has been a really valuable and oft requested form of support, and that includes Eco Paradigm bringing a crew of skilled, dedicated workers out to farms to help farmers stay on track with their work, accomplish farm-specific projects, maybe in a particularly busy time of year. I'm thinking of planting out during the spring, some kind of weed rescue and helping folks stay on track. Eco Paradigm has proven to be a really valuable resource to our small farms here in Metro Atlanta. That's a relationship we'll continue to be supporting. And basically in that arrangement, we take care of and cover Eco Paradigm's time, to go out to farms for, a work day or two of their time out at farms. We also continue to offer farm labor stipends, a direct financial support to active farms here in Metro Atlanta, where they're able to request this $3,000 payment, that's up from $2,500 last year, that they can apply, that farmers can basically use on their own personnel costs. So that's to maybe supplement wages and hours that they're paying farm crew members. That's been used to pay and supplement wages to maybe market staff or not necessarily only on farm labor or on-farm team members. It's also been used by farms to cover kind of professional other type wages and labor costs related to other types of professional services or contractors for completing farm projects. So I can think of a farm that got a quote back for some electrical work. So the farm labor stipend was requested essentially partly to cover the electrician's time to come out and perform some work, just as an example. We continue to offer our mechanical assistance resource. That's tractor work with small farmer at large Chris Teal. He's able to come out with his riding Kubota tractor to accomplish a little bit larger earth moving or raw material moving or grading projects. He's got some other attachments like a subsoil aerator, a few different types of things. So for some of those jobs that do require a little bit larger machinery, to come out to a farm, please reach out to us to kind of see if Chris Teal's tractor might be a good fit for your task. Along those same lines, we continue to, in partnership with the Atlanta Community Tool Bank, offer access to our BCS tractor lending program. A small farm or community garden actually can get trained and checked out to then be able to rent at a very affordable cost the BCS tractor. And I think we're up to definitely over 8 or 10 different attachments that can be checked out with the BCS. So now is a great time. If you're interested in that program, go ahead and sign up for a training to kind of get you in the system and get you part of that, so that come spring or any work that you might want to be doing here over the next couple of months can go ahead and be ready for that. We're going to continue to roll out our compost delivery for Metro Atlanta farms, something that's essentially in its third year now through partnership and collaboration with Compost Now. Those 15 cubic yard deliveries of compost are going to be rolling out here soon, so that farmers can go ahead and get that on the farm. Some folks like to go ahead and get that in place in these cold months, so that springtime is ready to roll. So look forward to more information to come out about that. We continue to roll out with convenings and workshops and events. We kind of wrapped up, December with a convening with various offices of the United States Department of Agriculture, so that we could kind of just get a bunch of USDA agents and representatives in the room together to kind of do a little bit of what we call demystifying of USDA. So different offices were able to talk specifically about what they offer, how small farms here in Metro Atlanta can tap into their work. So certainly NRCS was represented, but some of the other offices as well, including Farm Services and the USDA Risk Management Agency as well. And then, of course, our farm grants, which is something we've offered going back to when FoodWell was founded in 2015, and we'll be continuing to roll those out as well. So just kind of high level, some eligibility criteria, and this is criteria that applies to our current grant opportunity, but also to some of those other resources as well. So our FoodWell Alliance resources are for farms located in our 5-county Metro Atlanta service area. That's Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb, Gwinnett, and Clayton counties. A farm does have to be a registered entity. So there are certainly a few different formats and ways that farm organization can organize itself. So whether that is a for-profit small farm business, a nonprofit organization, there are some farms out there that are operated directly by a public agency, like a city government or other form of public agency, and we're open to all of those. You will be required within our grant application to upload kind of a proof or documentation of that registration. So whether that's your essentially your articles of incorporation with the Georgia Department Secretary of State's office, whether that's your nonprofit IRS exempt status determination letter. We have a few different examples of documents, but essentially something that's showing that you are in fact a registered entity of itself. Additionally, these resources are for farms that maintain a production focus to their operation. And additionally, those farm operations that can participate are folks that do make their food and farm products available for regular community consumption, through means such as selling at a local farmers market, through a CSA style program, directly to local consumers, or through some other sales channels and donations. So we acknowledge and absolutely embrace the multiple activities and multiple roles that small local farms fill in their just missions and day-to-day operations. that include things like events and education and knowledge sharing and engagement. But also we want to kind of make sure that we're honed in on supporting folks that are committing to the level of kind of ongoing and consistent commitment that comes with producing food. So that's something that we kind of like to point out and make a distinction. So making sure that we are providing resources to some of those farms and those organizations that are making that commitment to regular production of local food for our communities. All right, so we did a little bit of farmer surveying towards the end of last year, just to kind of get some feedback about where we stand with what we are offering. So one thing that just kind of jumped out, of course, is through that survey was our role as a organization that can mobilize resources and specifically direct funding to support farms. So, when asked which of our current Food Well Alliance farm resources are most helpful to farmers, grants was our number one mentioned kind of resource in form of support. So, we're going to be continuing on with our with our farm grant offerings. I think just for a little bit of kind of overview and context, Food Well Alliance, since our founding in 2015, has funded and granted, to over 160 unique organizations working in local food, to the amount of a little over $5.5 million. So as we kind of drill in on where that money has gone, local farmers here in Metro Atlanta have been kind of the largest percentage of funds received. So we're kind of, I guess, happy to reflect on the fact that, by centering our funding and support going directly to farmers, kind of the center of a local food system, we're able to put that kind of flexible working capital directly into farm organizations. So, about $2.4 million has gone directly to farms since 2015. Additionally, from kind of an equity lens, about almost 65% of that funding has gone directly to person of color owned farms, with 46% of total funding going to female owned or female co-owned farms. So our funding is made possible through our relationship with the James M. Cox Foundation. And we've definitely, we're continuing to hear back from farmers that this type of direct funding support is useful, it's important, and it's something that we should continue doing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the 2023 farm grants. So we are offering, as I mentioned, within this kind of one grant opportunity, we're offering two categories. So that's our two in one. And once again, it is a $7,000 farm support grant and a $25,000 farm forward grant. So we'll kind of zoom in a little bit on these, but I just want to reiterate and clarify once again. A farm applicant can complete the application to essentially be in the running for both of these farm grant categories. So one application completed gets you into kind of into the running for both of these opportunities. Obviously, a farm would only be receiving one of these, but I once again just encourage folks, if you're considering both, you could use a big grant. You could of course also use a smaller grant. Go ahead and complete the application for both. So let's talk a little bit more about these. We are aiming to reach a relatively large number, a good number of farms with our farm support grant. So, 30 farms are going to be awarded with this $7,000 farm support grant. On the other side, with a farm forward grant, larger grant amount, we're only going to be able to reach 2 farms with that larger grant. But as we kind of fold back into our Food Well Alliance farm or grant offerings, I think it's important as we kind of, get to hear how folks are interested in using, some of that larger investment, some of the larger dollar amounts that we've done in the past. So this goes for kind of both categories of support, but let's think about how folks have used some of this grant funding in the past, and certainly how folks might be interested in using some of this, here in 2023. So obviously, farm infrastructure projects have been a big part of this. And really, I think we can kind of hone in and think about these as kind of like farm production improvements. So certainly some irrigation upgrades. We can think about purchasing of tools and equipment. And that's included things like season extension. So whether that's, installing a Caterpillar tunnel, or even going towards the cost of a larger high tunnel. This is included in-field farm equipment and materials. So that might include trellising, that might include row cover, some of those kind of things, some of those kind of hard and important items that go out into a farmer's field to help improve their work and improve their production, improve their efficiency, improve their ability to produce local food. I mentioned some of those just kind of projects, irrigation related. Sometimes that can include things like installing an ag use water meter. Certainly expanding production areas. That's included farm site work. So something a little bit bigger, maybe access project like regrading and graveling a farm entryway so that people, farm workers, visitors, equipment, deliveries, et cetera, can have better access to a farm. That's kind of an example I'm kind of thinking about. Certainly post-harvest infrastructure, materials, supplies has been a big one. So that's included like wash station improvements, cold storage, market-ready supplies, some of those types of things. But also, in addition to some of these kind of, materials and equipment, I want also just to point out that we are open to, farm grant funds going to things like supporting a farm's access to, professional services. So, some folks have used that to tap into, online sales support. How do you set up a, e-commerce or more efficient website presence for ordering and kind of operating an online marketplace for their produce or farm products. That goes also for marketing, financial management, and financial services, professional services. So certainly, these grants can be used for some of those, really important material supply, input, infrastructure needs. But we're also open to hearing from folks that want to utilize that funding, for things like, professional services, consulting services, maybe even supplementing some farm personnel costs as well. So that applies to kind of both categories. So as you're building your proposal, thinking about how you're kind of going to set this up and kind of frame your application, we're open to kind of hearing about those needs and how a variety of kind of materials, supplies, and other things can kind of fit into either of these categories of support. I want to mention specifically for the Farm Forward grant, the larger $25,000 grant. We really want kind of a cohesive kind of project-focused proposal. So there's you can kind of think of like centering a theme in that request. That theme, that kind of proposal might incorporate some farm infrastructure, might incorporate some supplies or inputs or materials that you want some of that funding to go to. Could also include, some of these other types of uses of the funds. But there kind of should be like a little bit of a cohesive theme kind of at the center of that larger farm proposal. All right, so just once again, who can apply? As we kind of went over a little bit earlier, this is available to registered farm entities located in the 5-county Metro Atlanta area. And once again, this is for folks that do have a production component to their farm activities and their farm's mission. And it's important that food and those farm products are made available for regular community consumption. We certainly love urban agriculture in kind of all its different forms, but if this is just a homestead that you're just doing it to provide for the family, that's a beautiful and important thing. But this funding and the work that we do is certainly around community building through local food. So having that consistency of community interaction and that consistency of a farm, serving and working with community is an important component to where these funds will go to. Just a little bit about the timeline. This application opened actually kind of earlier in December. So our hope is that some folks have gotten into the application, gotten to explore it a little bit, understand what is being offered and what we're asking. And we've definitely had some people that have had a couple submit already. We've had definitely some people in the application getting some things started and organized. So that's great. The application deadline is January 27th. That's January 27th at 11:59 p.m. And then once that application closes, we're going to be working on our review period to just get a nice quick turnaround so that we can kind of keep the process moving along and certainly get funds out the week of February 20th at the latest. I think what you can expect after submitting your application, certainly for some of the folks that submit on the larger Farm Forward grant side, we're going to be probably reaching out for just possibly some clarifying questions. There's a chance that we might be setting up some site visits and some kind of in-person time to kind of check in on some of the applications. So that would be something that we might be reaching out to you after that January 27th January 27th application deadline, and then hopefully getting those funds on out to farmers so that folks can be working on projects and sourcing materials or inputs or supplies and getting things rolling as we head into the spring. So once again, kind of covered some of this, but how have farmers used it in the past? Production infrastructure, materials, supplies, post-harvest infrastructure, cold storage has been a big one. Farm site work and related materials, farm personnel costs, and then some of those, accessing professional services, consulting services, some farmer education or training, some of those kind of uses of the funds. Common question, of course, is what are you looking for in the application? And I really want to kind of set this up to kind of highlight that this is an opportunity for farms to really define, their needs and their challenges. Food Well Alliance, we don't tell farmers how to spend money. Certainly, we're going to be, taking in those applications, reflecting on them a little bit. There are occasionally times where we reach out to folks to kind of get some more information, but really this is about, the farmers just defining their current needs and challenges and understanding, proposing how, some flexible funding support can fit in to help address some of those needs or challenges. So certainly use this application to help us get to know you, help us understand what you see as your farm's role here in Metro Atlanta's local food system. We want to hear about the kind of mission and vision of your farm organization. And then, use the application to kind of drill down into those kind of needs and challenges that actively keep you as a farm organization from, achieving the work the way that you'd like to, and kind of make the case for how some of this flexible funding, flexible capital can fit in and help you address some of those needs and challenges. Certainly, we look forward to getting a realistic and clear plan for using the grant. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is not a $100,000. This is not a six-figure investment into your farm operation. So keep things in check and keep things kind of in line with kind of what the opportunity is offering. This is an example of our login page for the grant system. So all of our applications will be submitted through our grant application online grant application system. This is a web-based system. You don't need to download any special app or any sort of additional software. This is all through an online system, secure online system. You'll access this through that Foodwell Alliance website. So head to, once again, foodwellalliance.org, head over to the farm resource page where you'll kind of be able to get into the grant farm grant information and section. That's where you'll be able to start on your application, and you'll be taken to this kind of login page. For first-time users, there's an easy kind of setup to create a new account. You're just going to click on that Create New Account button. It's going to walk you through how to get into the system. And we've used this system for some years now. It has been just pretty straightforward, quite user-friendly system. Definitely please reach out if you have any sort of obstacles or challenges with accessing the technology. If there's anything we need to set up as far as another way for you to complete the application, we are here to do that. We don't want this to be an obstacle or a burden to anybody accessing these resources. I wanted to just mention that, you can, once you're in the system, once you're working on your application, you don't need to complete it in one go. You're more than welcome to, it allows you to easily save your work. You can start on your application, come back to it as many times before submitting it. So, don't feel like you need to block off a big chunk of time to come in and complete it all in one sitting. But at the same time, we have, over the years, we've, really pared down this application to make sure that it is easy for farmers to get into and to complete. So we try to strike that balance between, getting the information certainly that we need to be able to make some decisions, but also making sure that it is easy, streamlined, and just makes a lot of sense for working through it as far as guiding a farm applicant to be thinking about, like I mentioned, those challenges and those needs and how you'd like to address them. So once again, if you do have any questions about accessing the grant system as you're getting into it, don't hesitate to reach out. I do recommend that you go ahead and if you haven't yet, get into the system, just get comfortable with the application, kind of navigating around, how to complete sections, save your work, so that that's not any surprises as you get to the due date. So. All right, so here just kind of a few additional considerations. There is a little bit of grant reporting related to our Foodwell Alliance farm grants. Funds should be used here in 2023, and that grant report will be submitted, through the online grant system. A farm applicant that is accepted to receive the funding will have some more instructions on that, as we get into that part of the process. But yeah, that grant reporting, we hope and have gotten feedback that it is just a nice time for a farm to be able to reflect a little bit on, how they implemented kind of what they wanted to through their proposal, but help them reflect on changes they needed to make, certainly reflect on their work at a little bit higher level and thinking about, how are they moving through, challenges or getting needs addressed in order to be the best farm that they can be. So, that's just a part of it that we hope is not overburdensome. We don't set it up to be, something that's going to take a ton of a farmer's time, but it is a little bit of time for reflection. Once again, as you're kind of just thinking about, accessing some of these opportunities and creating a proposal and submitting an application, I think the important thing is really to be thinking about what changes you hope and want to see in your farm operation and how a farm grant can assist you towards those changes. So, it's making that link between, those obstacles, those things that hinder your farm operation from, achieving a certain level of production that you want to achieve, that, however you define success or define, how your work is functioning smoothly and going how you want it to, how can some grant funding and support fit into making some of those changes, some of those improvements that you want to see. I think it's really, and that's something that I hope folks in farms are thinking about in a short-term sense, as well as, kind of medium and long-term as well. So just, a couple other things. Farm grant funds can be combined with any other source of funding. So that could be, a farm's own working capital. If a farm has secured or is pursuing other, grant opportunities or other investment, this farm grant funding can absolutely be combined with other sources of funding in order to accomplish a project. We understand, on a farm, $7,000 or even $25,000, depending on what you're trying to do, can go fast and might not represent the entire, funding or budget that you need in order to accomplish or complete a project. So, certainly, instances where you're going to be doing some additional fundraising or adding some of your own, funding or support, there is a place in the application for you to describe that and speak to that a little bit. So certainly encourage you to do that. And yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a neat thing to see how farms can leverage some of this Food Well Alliance funding to attract, additional support. So, a farm might say, hey, I'm going out for a $7,000, farm support grant, and maybe solicit some from its own, own supporters to maybe do some sort of match funding event, or raise some additional funding, maybe to complete, say, a $10,000 total budget. Food Well is going to put in $7,000. Supporters help me raise an additional $3 to get the funding that I need to accomplish this project. So some different ways that farms can think about combining the Food Well funds with other funding. Want to speak just real quick to farm types. So we kind of acknowledge there are a lot of different types of farms doing some different type of farming work out there. So certainly there are plenty of small farm businesses, organized as LLCs, as small farm enterprises. We also know there are, some nonprofit organizations, or more specifically nonprofit farms that are operating, as kind of under that nonprofit organization classification. And then, there are some other types. So I'll point out school farms as an example. We are open to supporting school farms, but we do have a little bit of kind of additional criteria. School farms, we would want to see and potentially support school farm programs that do have an emphasis and a focus of the school farm's operation that is, production focused. So maybe not just a small school farm or garden program that's operating some raised beds for some classroom learning. When we think about a school farm, we think about some of the programs out there that have committed to that next step up. That's not just about education and demonstration purposes, but it does have a production focus to the school farm. And it's important. We think that that school farm program is thinking about how that food goes out to surrounding community or outside of just kind of, say, the classroom learning. And along those lines, there are a lot of dedicated school garden, school farm type resources out there. So whether that's Georgia Organics Farm to School program, whether that's a group like the Whole Kids Foundation, Captain Planet Foundation, some of these groups that are both local but also nationwide or doing work farther afield. We want to make sure that our Food Well Alliance resources are available to some of the non-school type farms that are out there. So we want to hear from some school farms, but we do kind of require a little bit more of a production focus. We do also want to see a farm manager position or role or person that is different from, we'll say, a classroom instructor. So, that's a kind of an additional distinction that we make with school farms, that there is a dedicated farm manager that's not, a classroom teacher. We kind of make that criteria, or that kind of put that out there because, when a school farm program does have, a separate farm manager, there is that opportunity for, just in addition to education, a little bit more of a production focus. And, we know the demands of classroom teachers and how that could, certainly take away from actual, farm tasks and farm production, and just keeping those things going, not having to restart at the beginning of every school year. Also, just want to take a second here to point out, the kind of idea or concept around grant readiness. We have worked with and supported, a lot of farms over the years that have been doing this work for long before Foodwell Alliance was even conceived. We've also, though, been able to, fit in our support to some farms that are in some of those earlier stages of development, and some of those kind of startup type farms. So, I think for farms that are newer, I think it's important, as you're thinking about possibly tapping into one of these opportunities, asking that you maybe check out some of the resources around, am I ready for a grant? We hear certainly from folks like, I just need the money to get started, but, we got to make sure that there's a plan behind, behind the dreams and the aspirations. So, I think for earlier stage farms, we're open to supporting those, but let's just kind of, utilize that application to, if you are not already, out there consistently with a year or a couple of years of farming as an entity and operation, really need to hear from you in that application around what your, farm business plan is, what are some of the specific kind of timelines and for what you want to be achieving as you're, in that startup farm phase. So here is just a little quick kind of checklist. Hopefully, as we've kind of gone through some of this information, I think that, this is kind of a little bit of a like, hey, what am I working on related to this grant opportunity? What can I start today? What do I need to be working on this week? So real easy. If you haven't yet, visit the Foodwell Alliance Farm Resource Center webpage to learn more about this grant opportunity, as well as to explore a little bit more about some of those other farm resources that we offer. I'm encouraging you, if you're even just thinking about maybe applying, go ahead and register in our online grant system today. That just kind of gets you on in there. No obligation to get into the system, create an account, and take a look at the application. That's something that anybody can do, even if you're not going to apply. But for those that are going to apply, go ahead today, get familiar with the application. Like I said, kind of just get comfortable moving around that grant system and getting to kind of see and know what's going on there. And then, go ahead and start that work of, if you haven't already, reflect on your farm's current challenges and needs. Certainly there's going to be some reflection on, the past year, certainly some reflection on, maybe some of the recent weather events, but understanding and thinking through, those needs and challenges, and kind of start building that proposal around that kind of link between, how some funding can help address some of those needs, and help, put in motion to some of those changes that a farm wants to see in their work. We certainly have heard, continue to hear from farms that, hey, I need money. That's what I need. That's what we need. And we absolutely hear that and understand that. And that's a role that Foodwell has been able to help fill, but also that's a role that, we've been able to direct people to some other resources and some other things. But, it's not just, hey, I need the money. This is the type of opportunity and time for you to say, okay, exactly how am I going to use those funds? How am I going to address some of those changes to kind of move from that outputs to that outcomes type of thinking? So, how am I going to be utilizing that funding to make some of those changes that I want to see? Once again, go ahead and decide if you want to be applying for the Farm Support Grant, the $7,000 opportunity, or the Farm Forward Grant, the $25,000 opportunity. Once again, you can apply for both. If you're considering one or the other, if you're considering that larger grant, go ahead and apply for that smaller grant as well. That kind of just gives you a little bit of a chance to make sure you're in the running for both of those. And once again, our application deadline is January 27th at 11:59 p.m. Once again, my name is Bobby Farmer. Email address bobby@foodwellalliance.org. I think certainly, we are excited about this opportunity because it is a chance for us to certainly get to hear from and maybe possibly get to know some newer farms that are not on our radar, that are out there doing this work, but also just get to kind of check in and continue to hear from folks that have committed their lives and are doing this work of growing food for others. So we're excited about the opportunity for this to, certainly connect some of us and for us to get to know some more about each and every one of y'all's work as well. As far as additional questions, I think it's looking like we kind of covered a lot here. Question once again about nonprofit organization, registered as a nonprofit but without a farm track number. Can I still apply? I believe that farm track number is probably in reference to like a USDA farm track number. And so we're certainly open to, receiving and supporting applications from farms that are, once again, registered entities, but maybe, you don't necessarily need to have a USDA farm track number in order to be a registered farm business or a registered farm, nonprofit. So, you don't have to have that farm track number. I'd say along the same lines, I hope it is something that you're looking into, just to potentially tap into some of those USDA resources, whether it's NRCS or some of those others out there. But once again, a farm track number is not required. Just other questions that have come in. This is about kind of community garden versus farm. This is a farm specific opportunity. There are cases, and we know and support some farms that operate kind of independent community gardens hosted on the site of the farm. And so, I guess that distinction is just important to make, that there are some dedicated Food Well Alliance resources for community gardens. There are some dedicated resources for farms. This is an example of, that dedicated farm resource. And so, if a farm has and supports a community garden that it, maybe helps organize or provides some land to, community growers, certainly, able to apply for community garden resources, including our community garden grant. That doesn't affect a farm entity's ability to apply for farm grants, to support specifically the farm operation itself. So we kind of make those distinctions, and there's some kind of criteria on both sides to kind of also help with those distinctions as well. So once again, we do small question here about multiple farms applying for, kind of shared equipment like cold storage. And we're open to that. There is a little space in the application to talk about, kind of collaboratively applying. And so, we would love to certainly hear from some folks that are interested in that. And if you do have any additional questions, certainly reach out, but there is a place in the application to describe, if you are collaborating with other farmers on the grant in any way. And then once again, I want to just say thank you for, attending today. I want to say thank you for the questions and folks that are interested. I have gotten some comments before the webinar, as well as during here, about folks that might want to reach out and chat a little bit. As I mentioned, this is a great opportunity to kind of get to know folks as Foodwell Alliance, and hopefully for farms and folks working here in urban agriculture in Metro Atlanta to get to know a little bit more about what we offer. So we're excited about that as well. So once again, on behalf of our Foodwell Alliance Resource Center team, Chris Lemons, our Director of Programs and Outreach, is here with us. So we just want to say, thank you for tuning in, and we hope to learn more about your farm operation through this grant application process, but also just look forward to connecting and learning more about your work, certainly about how Foodwell Alliance resources can fit in to support the work, and yeah, what else we need to be thinking about in our own work of helping support the Atlanta community through our local food system. So once again, feel free to reach out to me, BOBBY@foodwellalliance.org if you have any questions, and hope you have a great rest of your day.